Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Apologies for anyone who clicked on the previous video for this card. I just noticed it ended up 1 minute 37 seconds. I have no idea what happened with the recording then. It was completely the wrong recording. So it's early on the Monday morning when the video went originally live, and I'm now re-recording it and trying to change it and hopefully get it back up right now for you. So apologies for that. But anyway, going back to the card. This is one of the cards I was quite keen to do. It's going back in time to Strixhaven, and it's one of the cards that's just come through on MTGO, which I was quite excited about. So I decided to do a deck tech about it, which went horribly wrong originally when I uploaded it. So like I say, sorry for that. So let's try again. Anyway, the card I want to talk about from Strixhaven comes from one of the Commander decks. It's literally just come onto MTGO. So without further ado, here's Felisa, Fang of Silverquill, hopefully getting the right card up this time when we do it on the upload. So what's this card do? It's 2 white and black for a 3/2 flying vampire, legendary vampire wizard, and it has mentor. Whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. Whenever a non-token, but the second ability is whenever a non-token creature you can control dies, if it had counters on it, create an X-tapped 2/1 white and black inkling creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of counters on it. So I was quite excited to see this card come out. And so here's the deck tech, and here's how we're going to go through it. Start with the lands. It's basically all the black and white lands you can think of, plus command, beacon, command tower, concealed pass, courtyard, fabled passage, field of the dead are in here. Field of the runes also in here. Recently I've seen in MTGO world there's been a few more cards going out that you need to deal with, especially some of the lands that starting to see play. So I've decided to start including Field of Ruin in some of the decks, especially the 2 colour ones. Maybe not the 3 colour ones, but 2 colour ones I think we can get away with it. Forsaken Sanctuary, Godless Shrine, Goldmire Bridge, you might as well have something that's indestructible. There's land destruction around as well at the moment. Isolated Chapel, Marsh Flats, Obscura Storefronts in here because it does go and get us an Plains or Swamp, so that seems like a good plan to me. Ours of Basilisk, Ours of Guildgate, Part of Ancestry, whole load of planes. Reliquary Towers here in case anything gets bounced back to our hand, so we don't have to discard it. Scarred Barrens, Scrublands, Sinkhole, so on and so forth. You know, load of swamps, and then Temple of the Silence and Temple of the False God. Seems like a cunning plan to me. You know, we've got to think about this. This is going to get killed quite easily. It's only 2 toughness at the end of the day, so you're probably going to be recasting it a lot at a time. As for mana ramp, try to keep it reasonable. Mox Tantalite, you know, I've had the conversation before now. I like having this in Commander decks, which is why it's here. Yes, in real life it's a little bit expensive. On MTGO it's okay though. So we've got Mox Tantalite, we've got Sol Ring, we've got Arcane Signet. That's as much ramp as you probably need in this deck. As you can see, most of the decks are like 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then it spreads out a little bit more evenly. Okay, there's 5s and the 4s the same, but 1, 2 and 3, so we should be alright with 38 lands and just those 3 things as ramp. What I was trying to do though was trying to chuck +1/+1 counters around, so there's a couple of ways of doing that. The main one is Cleric class. Yeah, once we get up to level 2, you put +1/+1 counter on creatures when we gain some life. So we have creatures that gain life, and we also have Archangel Athune to go along that road as well. So lifelink, like when you gain life, you get put +1/+1 on each creature you control, which is fine. And we've also got Cathar's Crusade. So whenever we get this into play and start playing creatures, they all come in. All the other creatures start getting +1/+1s, which makes this very good very quickly, because you are chucking those +1/+1 counters around, which means when they die, you will get the Inkling tokens. So how are we going to gain the life? So we've got a Ajani's Welcome. Whenever a creature in this battlefield under control gained a life. Healer's Hawk, because it's flying lifelink, and it's not a bad one little beta at the start. Yeah, Serra Ascendant's in here. I think this should be edited personally for Commander, but hey, until they get round to it, which I don't think they ever will do, 30 or life, 1 mana for a 6/6 flyer with lifelinks, pretty good. Yes, you probably do become a big target if you play this on turn 1, but you might get a couple of hits in with it and start getting your life total up even further. To go alongside it, there's Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, Soul Mender. Soul Mender's the weak one. I'm not sure about it in this deck, but we'll play it for the time being. We've got a little bit of removal with Source of Plowshares, Fatal Push, which is very nice little package here. And then we've also got Amulet of Vigour in here. I've included this purely because the Inkling tokens of Felisa come into play tapped. If we can avoid them coming into play tapped, it's even better for us. Hence why we've got Amulet of Vigour in here. Also, you know, you should probably know, a little bit of a combo with all the other lands that come into play tapped. They'll come into play untapped if you have this in play. So getting this out is quite important. One bit of equipment we have is Blade of the Blood Chief. A lot of the creatures in the deck are vampires, and even if they're not, we can still equip it and just get +1/+1 counters put on creatures that it's equipped to. So, bit of a no-brainer. Helps the game with Felisa. Right, moving on to 2-drops. Backup Agent comes in with +1/+1 counter on it or another creature, so it will replace itself if Felisa's in play. Sunhome Stalwart has Mentor. There's quite a few mental creatures I've included in the deck, so it goes along with the Mentor from Felisa as well, so that's quite nice. Thalia's Lieutenants, we have a few humans as well, so we might as well have this in, and when we get other humans into play under our control, we get to put counters on them, so yeah, seemed like a plan to me at the time when I was building the deck. Whether it still succeeds or not, I'm not sure, but we'll try it out for a little while and see how it goes. Anafenza comes in, bolsters things, so more +1/+1 counters. Voice of the Blessed benefits from all the life gain we're going to be doing. So that'll start getting +1/+1 counters on it when we gain life, so that's quite nice. Obviously, if this comes in play, Ajani's Welcome's in play, it starts getting the counters there and then. Blood Artist helps us gain life and make our opponents lose life, so again, triggers some of the things, you know, like Cleric's Class or Angel of Thune if we're having to play, helps with that side of it. And obviously it makes tokens go on Voice of the Blessed. Go for the Throat's the second part of removal. Again, this could be any one of the black 2-mana instants. I won't go for the Throat because I haven't seen many artifact creatures recently, so it seemed like a reasonable one to have in play. Contagion Class in here, really, for the Proliferate, along with its bigger mummer Contagion Engine. It's the proliferate side of it, so once we start getting +1/+1 counters, we can proliferate them. Also, it's quite nice, especially with Contagion Engine, we can proliferate all the -1/-1 counters we put on someone else's creatures. You know, it's very helpful if they've got something like Elesh Norn in play that we need to deal with, so that's why they're here. And then Swiftfoot Boots, obviously give Felisa haste, protect her if we need to. It seemed like a reasonable plan to include this one. I prefer this one over the other ones that has Shroud. This is this hexproof, so if we do need to target Felisa, we still can with these. Blade Instructor's in. It's probably weak at a 3/1 for 3 mana, but it does have Mental, so it does help chuck some +1/+1 counters around. Inspiring Overseer, we gain a life and draw a card, which means with Cleric class at level 2, we get to put +1/+1 on something, so it replaces itself. Likewise, Keensight Mentor and its black version Dustfan Mentor are both in here. We have a lot of things that aren't human, so we might as well chuck some +1/+1 counters around on each creature we control with Vigilance, and we do have ways of giving them all Vigilance if we need to. Teferi's Protections here just covers us against any problems we may come up against, so it seemed like a reasonable include to me. Bastion of Remembrance is a slightly better version of Blood of Artists as far as I'm concerned, because when one of your creatures dies, it does ping everyone for a point. It does ping everyone for the point, you still gain a life, so it seems more logical. Dustfan Mentors here, +1/+1 counter on each creature we control with lifelink. We do have a way of giving all our creatures lifelink with True Conviction over here, so this could be quite a big card later on in the game. Taborax, he gets to put +1/+1 counter on non-token creatures we control die. As soon as we can get this going and get up to the lifelink level, it's going to be very good. I've included Victimize. It's a nice way of returning some of the cards from our graveyard to the player. They get milled away, like Archangel of Thune or some of the other cards we're going to be talking about. So it seemed like a reasonable plan to include it. Sacrificing a creature can be a little bit painful, but we do have ways of getting other creatures back. And it might be a way that you can cycle some of the 1-drops here out of the way when they get a bit problematic. Drana, Liberator of Malkirs here. This is a nice one. 3 mana for a flying first strike legendary creature, 2/3, but when it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. Because it's got first strike, the chances are it'll chuck the +1/+1s around before your normal creatures get blocked, so they might survive combat, or they've got counters on them. If Felisa's in play, they'll die. You'll then get little tokens off them, so it's not too bad. Mortify's in. I'll just highlight the bit on here. Destroy target creature or enchantment, 3 mana. Yeah. It's just in as instant removal. Occasionally you'll start to see a bit more moat being played. You're seeing propaganda being played, so on and so forth. It gives you a way to deal with them and still get your strikes in. Dragon Scale General kicks off the 4-drops. At the end of your end step, bolster X, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control. So if you've got a few tapped creatures, even if it's just Soulmender you've got tapped, you can bolster it up, make it a little bit bigger. Likewise, Felidar retreats here. Mainly, yes, okay, occasionally you'll probably make a cat token, but mainly it's here for the +1/+1 counters and giving them vigilance, which works really well with Keensight Mentor, because if you give all your creatures vigilance, you have this in play. Pay 2 mana, you get to put an extra +1/+1 on them, so a little bit of a combo going on there. Inspiring Roar is just another way of putting +1/+1 counters around, so it's probably a bit weak at 4 mana, but it's worth a try on this deck. Parlion Patrol is just because it's got vigilance and flying and mentor, but it does, vigilance, so you can make it bigger with Keensight Mentor, as it comes with standard, and it's also a human, so it triggers Thalia's Lieutenant, which is quite nice. Castle Siege, you're probably going to always, Citadel Siege, sorry, you'd probably always pick the +1/+1 counter side of it, so you'd pick Khans. Occasionally you can pick dragons if you're a bit behind, you need to get into those strikes, depending when you play it. We've got a couple of 4 mana removal spells in Day of Judgment, Damnation. Day of Judgment could be Wrath of God if you've got one. Doesn't need to be Day of Judgment. I just picked this because it was the first one I came to. And obviously Damnation is the same as Wrath of God, but just in black, so bear them in mind. You can, these are interchangeable for any 4 ones you want to do. Elendra, the Dusk Rose, is back out. It's also in Modern Masters 2020. Whether it's Double Masters 2022, but whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It's really nice because you get +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on here. If this dies, when you've got Felisa in play, as well, you'll get the little vampires from Elandra, so you get all the 1/1s, and then Felisa gives you a whole load of Inklings as well, which if Cathar's Crusades in game, you'll have a really big army very quickly appearing, which a little bit cheesy, but it does work occasionally. Venerated Loxodon's next. Convoking it out early, tapping 4 creatures, get some more +1/+1 counters, you end up with a 4/4. Yeah, it's not great, but it does help with the +1/+1 counters, which is what we're really keen on in this deck. Archangel of Thune and Cathar's Crusade I've already mentioned. I won't go through them again. Fumigate comes in at 5 mana removal, just to blow everything up and give us some little bit more of life gain, so that seems like a cunning plan to me. And Sunscorched Regents here, because whenever your opponents cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it and you gain life. Obviously with this in play, with Archangel of Thune, it's really nice, you get to chuck around 2 +1/+1 counters, so knock it. And if worse comes to worse, opponents playing spells, you're just going to gain life, you get some life anyway, so your opponents have to play spells to beat you, so it's worth thinking about. Unburial Rites is another way of returning stuff from the graveyard to the battlefield, and obviously with a flashback it's a little bit better than it should be normally. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Graceful Restoration I decided to try out. We can return to target creature card with a couple of +1/+1 counters on it, which is quite nice, or we can return up to 2 target creature cards with power of 2 or less, so Voice of the Blessed and Anafenza, all of these cards down here get removed somehow, worst comes to worst, you want your Sarah Ascendant back, so on and so forth. You can get them back with this quite happily. So it can be a 2-for-1, which is quite nice. Chadric Silverquill's a bit of a no-brainer in this deck, purely because it will put +1/+1 counter on each creature. Yes, you have to give your opponent something. I would probably recommend just giving them a black Inkling token. Want to avoid giving them the cards. Obviously, if you're really short of cards, you need something, you can draw the card yourself and still give them the Inkling. So yeah, bear that in mind when you're thinking about this one. Legion of the Light's here because it's a big way of mentoring something, but it also has a nice secondary ability. Whenever it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each white creature you control. Most of the creatures you've seen are white, so you're going to pump them up a little bit when this dies. I've mentioned True Conviction. This does make you a target, be aware of it. People see you having your creatures all of a sudden having double strike and lifelink, you're probably going to get hit around a lot, but hopefully with the double strike you'll be able to survive all those attacks that will be coming your way for a turn. Ever After's here, again, another reanimation spell. Things will get killed. The best side of this is when you cast it, it goes on the bottom of your library, so yeah, you can come around again and again and again. And with things like Field of the Rune and Fabled Passage, you will be shuffling occasionally, so yeah. Or your opponent will make you shuffle, so they'll come back. Athros Shroud Veiled's also in here, purely because when you begin your upkeep, beginning your episode, put a coin counter on a creature. When that creature dies, it's put into exile, you return it to your battlefield under control, which is quite nice because if you've got Felisa in play, you can protect Felisa with it, save you recasting her, and some of the other things come into play. The reason is really to protect Felisa from my point of view, but we'll see. Contagion Engine I've mentioned already. We understand what's going on there. Vishkel Blood Arbiters also here. Yeah, just sacrifice a creature, put some +X+1/+1 counters on him. It's definitely a him, this one. And it also helps, get those creatures in the graveyard. Someone casts Wrath of God, you can respond to Wrath of God by sacking your creatures off, putting a load of +1/+1 counters on it, and as long as you've got Felisa in play, when that creature dies, when Vish dies, you'll get all those lovely 2/1 Inkling tokens. Rise of the Dark Realms is the big mass reanimation spell. I think a lot of our creatures have died quite rapidly, so this gives us a way later in the game to just win the game, hopefully, and get everyone's creatures back. So that's quite nice. The last few cards are a bit... are they worth playing? Not sure, but we're getting there. Finale of Eternity is expensive if you want to try and get 10 or more. However, you do get to kill 3 target creatures with toughness X or less, or if you get up to X is 10, so 12 mana in play, you get all your creatures back from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Likewise, Blot Out the Skies here. This makes Inklings. This makes Inklings. Do you see where we're going with this? If X is 6 or more, destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents. It does help take out all those awkward enchantments and artifacts that are in play. Yes, it doesn't deal with creatures, but taking out everyone's enchantments and artifacts can have a real good side to it. So that seemed like a good plan to me. Hangerback Walker is nice. Obviously, when it dies, you get all the nice little Thopter tokens. If Felisa's in play, you get all the little Inkling creatures to go with it as well. Walking Ballista are also included. This is a bit more tricky because with Felisa in play, you want this to die with all its with its X+1/+1 counters on it to get your Inklings. The trouble is, 9 times out of 10, when this starts to die, you're going to start pinging people to deal with it, so you don't end up with any Inklings. You need to weigh it up. If you've got an opponent, say you've got a 4/4 Walking Ballista, and you've got an opponent on 4 life, it's probably worth shooting them twice and getting 2 Inklings when this dies. If they're only on a couple of life and this has got 4 counters on it, then you're just going to kill them anyway, aren't you? So why aren't they already dead? But you have to do your balancing act with this, and it is really depending if Felisa's in play or not, so bear that in mind. Anyway, that is the really quick redo of the Felisa Fang of Silverquill deck. Like I say, to the 2 people who watched this video earlier today, I'm really sorry. I'm hoping this gets up in the next half hour or so. But if you hadn't watched before, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So thank you for coming and watching this. Please leave a comment down below on the YouTube channel. YouTube comments. Come and follow me on Twitch. You'll be seeing this deck. I'll be playing it tomorrow night. That's Tuesday the 26th of July. I'll be playing it on my stream. So, come and follow me on my stream at twitch.tv/RecMar1. Or if not, come and watch the VOD later on and you'll see this deck being played in one of the games tomorrow night. But as for now, that's it. Thanks for watching this. Take care. And Felisa and I will hopefully see you on stream soon. Cheers. Bye.